when we talk about spending more, our side will prioritize our monetary resources on SMEs over MNCs. But at this point, I would like to clarify that we are not shutting out MNCs altogether. Instead, it's simply a question of priority. So who exactly are these MNCs and SMEs? So first of all, SMEs are characterized by their limited scale, $15 million in assets and 200 workers. In general, they fall under one of four categories. 1, those which compete with MNCs. 2, those which are localized by nature. 3, those which have the potential to internationalize. And 4, those which are the focal points of innovation. So for the purpose of our policy, we will focus on the latter two of these categories. So next, let's move on to who exactly are these MNCs. So at their heart, MNCs are very big companies with operations in many countries, well-developed organizational structures, as well as being almost exclusively accountable to shareholders. As such, their focus is on maintaining profit levels. So when we talk about grooming SMEs, we are essentially referring to expenditure to nurture SMEs to achieve specific goals like product development. And to this end, we offer grants and low-interest loans to SMEs for startup costs. At the same time, we will provide the technical expertise they need to turn their ideas into viable products. As for attracting foreign MNCs, what we essentially mean is that we refer to expenditure that's spent on incentives and infrastructure meant solely for MNCs. So this will include building a road to Jurong Island, but not a road which you and I will step on otherwise. So without further ado, I'll be talking about nurturing innovation, where Antarich will discuss how we unlock the potential of Singapore's SMEs. So the thesis of my point is that MNCs are fundamentally unable to sustain the innovation that we need in order for our economy to grow. And the SMEs are better at nurturing this innovation. So I'll show you this on 3 levels. But no thank you, sir. So first of all, people. In MNCs, employees are pigeonholed into different responsibilities with defined roles. And as a result, they do not have the capacity to innovate because it falls outside their scope. In contrast, the broad and open nature of an SME allows a free flow of ideas from its members, from which groundbreaking innovations eventually arise. So, for example, the co-owners of Tianhu, when it was still a family startup, were able to share their ideas freely with one another because they were able to share all their tasks. But before that, yes.
So I tell you that when you give more money to SMEs, they will be less likely to innovate because there is no need for them to do so.
No, precisely because when you give more money to SMEs, they are able to have the resources and capacity to innovate. Simply because they are now able to bring their ideas into fruition and because we mitigate the barriers into the marketplace for these SMEs. And as such, we will see an explosion of innovation which is beneficial for our economy. So second, let me move on to structures. Now, over time, complex and entrenched power structures evolve within MNCs, leading to a constant power struggle between business units. And as a result, politics distort the evaluation of innovations. Only products which serve the interests of decision makers are cultivated. So in the 90s, the business division of Microsoft is not brilliant innovations like the clear text ebook to maintain the unit's dominance in software. So that's a classic example of my point. In contrast, the smaller structure and relative newness of SMEs allow them to express ideas more freely and evaluate them more objectively. And as such, we think that innovation occurs better in SMEs. So finally, on shareholders. Now, MNCs are fundamentally interested in maintaining profit margins. Since innovation results in new products that have not been tested, there's no guarantee how they perform with consumers. This inherent risk drives managers to choose safe options over untested innovations because it ensures their jobs stay secure and targets are met. In contrast, SMEs have nothing to lose because their owners are accountable only to themselves. And such, they have the room to develop the products they believe in. And ultimately, this is the type of innovation that we need in today's economy. This is the innovation that will give us the first mover advantage over our competitors. Because now, our competitors find it harder to fight Singaporean companies since they need more time to get the same expertise and resources to rehash our innovations. Hence, consumers rely on us for the cutting-edge products and innovations that they need. So because SMEs are inherently better at the innovation that is so critical to our economy, we would spend more money on SMEs. And for that reason, I am very proud to propose.
Thank you, Junyan.
Ladies and gentlemen, we think it's high time that side proposition realize that MNCs play an integral role and that this debate is going to be a cost-benefit analysis of who best brings benefits to Singapore. We think that Singapore should ride the wave of globalization, and because we're at the heart of a globalizing world, we think MNCs are the way forward and the way to bring more innovation towards Singapore. And this is what Team Opposition is going to be proving to you in today's debate. But before that, I'm going to be talking about the one main point of contention that I have, that on the entire idea of who best brings about innovation, SMEs or MNCs. So they've said a few things. Now let me break it down for you. They've basically come up here to say that MNCs have no incentive whatsoever to innovate and to attract customers. And we disagree with that because we think, ladies and gentlemen, that MNCs are similarly customer-driven. That it is in the interest of Microsoft to develop new software, because what that means is that more people are going to buy their products. It means that more people are going to patronize their stores. We think that that is in the interest of Microsoft. We think that the interests of Microsoft are to innovate, so we don't see how that works out. We give you the example of recently, in 2009, Infosys created a special wafer chip that was introduced to Singapore, and we think that that was an MNC that did innovate. And secondly, we think that even if there is the symbiotic relationship between MNCs and SMEs when it comes to information, because we think MNCs do have the upper hand most of the time when it comes to innovating, because they have the necessary resources, because they have the necessary networks, because they have the necessary grounding and the production base. So what happens, ladies and gentlemen, is that SMEs are able, no thank you sir, SMEs are able to use these MNCs as production bases. They're able to facilitate the transfer of skills, the transfer of technology. And we saw that recently when Microsoft was able to partner with one of the local SMEs in order to bring about more innovation, in order to bring about more products. So we don't see how necessarily their points stand, because ultimately what's best for the MNCs is innovation, and we think MNCs represent the heart of innovation, that they do bring most of the technology and most of the innovation to Singapore. So we think that point completely falls. Moving on to what I'm going to bring to you in today's debate. No, thank you, sir. I'm going to be talking about two main things. Firstly, I'm going to be bringing you the benefits that MNCs bring and why they're so essential. And secondly, I'm going to be talking about the kind of legitimate expectations that we have set for these MNCs. No, thank you, sir. So moving on.
Ma'am.
That on the benefits of MNCs to Singapore. Now, we think MNCs accrue immense benefits for Singapore. Firstly, we think that MNCs drastically increase the scope of job opportunities for Singaporeans because they provide a broad-based employment base for Singaporeans to get jobs. For example, in 2009 alone, MNCs provided for 80% of the jobs in the industrial sector and 65% of the jobs in the petrochemical sector.
Point of information, ma'am.
Just this year, the opening of the Resorts World Sentosa created jobs for 8,000 Singaporeans, helping to alleviate the kind of job loss that was brought about by the financial crisis. The second benefit that MNCs bring is that on a plain cost-benefit analysis alone, we think that they provide greater guarantee for return, greater guarantee for dividends for the economy. Because MNCs have a large budget, as well as the resources and skills to bring about more business opportunities, we think that they bring about more profit, more guarantee of profit, and stable economic benefits for Singapore. For example, US MNC's operation in Singapore alone generated $16 billion to our GDP in 2006. And MNCs provide 80% of the manufacturing output and 70% of the direct export sales in Singapore. So from a direct, rational, economic point of view, we think that diverting resources to attracting MNCs is more practical as you take away uncertainty out of the financial equation. Moving on, sir, we're going to be talking about next about the kind of legitimate expectation that has already been set. So we think that Singapore has always proclaimed its intention to serve as a foreign hub for global MNCs. Yes, sir.
Madam, even if MNCs themselves Singapore's geographical and political position already attract plenty. You don't have to...
Sir, obviously you haven't been reading the newspapers because we think that one important new factor that's happened is that the rise of China and India, the rise of countries like Vietnam, and we think that Singapore needs to put an extra effort into attracting them because if not, they're going to go to places like Vietnam, to places like Hong Kong, to places like Shanghai. And that's why we need to put in more effort, that's why we need to prioritize them because that's the only way we can get them to stay in Singapore. So moving on, we think that Singapore has always proclaimed its intention. We think that therefore, in order to have a long-term sustainable relationship, we should send the normative signal that MNCs are integral, because only then will it be more likely to return with more investments and so on. So what do we want you to remember from side opposition? At the end of this debate, we want you to remember that more money should be given to attracting foreign MNCs because it is we that provide you with the jobs when you need it the most. It is we that bring the economic benefits to Singapore, and our presence is absolutely crucial. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.